Hi, this is Bill Hartzer, and today is May 14th, 2020. This is a digital marketing podcast with Bill Hartzer, and I have the pleasure of having Michelle Lowery here talking today with me about content and specifically writing and hiring writers. And we'll talk a little bit about if you are a writer, how you can actually market your writing skills. Because honestly, with being in the digital marketing industry, and just websites in general. There's no, there's a lot of companies and a lot of websites need decent content and need writers. And even though we do have, AI and we can automatically generate fairly good content now, there's still nothing like having a good writer write that content for you, and having it be unique. So welcome, Michelle. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into the industry and a little bit about your background.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I got into the industry in 2008 as a writer with We Build Pages back then. And I've been a writer and editor for a lot longer than that, though. And prior to that, I was in the Air Force. I'm a veteran. And so I worked with We Build Pages for a while as a writer. Got on a contract with an affiliate marketer for a while, a couple years, and then it just took off from there. I kept learning about content and SEO and worked for a couple of agencies in that time, but I've been self-employed now since 2013, steadily since 2013, and have been able to build a really good business, content writing and editing business. So I'm really happy with that.
Sure, and even though, like I said, you have the technology and artificial intelligence and everything keeps on getting better. There's still nothing, like I said, nothing like hiring a writer. And I think personally, it's going to be much more in demand for somebody, not only just not only just for blog posts and for and product descriptions and so forth, but what more researched and more helpful articles, more content that is longer and longer. And in some, it's interesting because some competitive spaces I've seen in certain industries where if you start to look at the rankings, the length of the content, I mean, they keep on stepping it up more and more. I see, some pages that, if you look at a certain keyword, for example, in the education space, like bachelor degree or online bachelor degree, for example, if you start to look at some of the search results, some of those pages that are ranking have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 words on the page, and which is a lot of research content, a lot of really good, content all on one particular page. That ends up ranking really well.
Right.
So, and that's a lot of different between, there is a big difference, I'll mention a little bit and I'll let you elaborate a little bit, but there's a big difference between hiring a cheap writer and hiring one, that is more expensive. And, it's, thinking about, okay, I will have a blog post or an article about, a certain topic, and I want that to do well. I want, people to share that content, and so forth. And there's a big difference between, okay, going to one of these cheaper places, we mentioned Fiverr and iWriter and even some of the freelance type of websites, where you can get an article done for $5-10 or so, and it is content, it is filler, but what I've noticed is in looking at some of that content is that you can get it done quickly, and the reason why you can get it done so quickly, so cheaply, is because that person is just clicking some buttons and having, an AI tool write the content or the article,
Right.
Or spinning it a little bit. So technically, it passes, the Copyscape test and so forth, and technically, it's it's unique. But every piece of content, even especially the stuff that I actually write, has a personality and actually a human writer behind it, and a certain voice, for example. And one of the reasons why I don't really, or I kind of hesitate to have even any guest writers on my particular blog, is because I do have a certain voice, and people can tell if they read my articles over and over, and start reading into my content, that it is that one particular voice and my particular way of writing and style of writing. And just to have some kind of random article out there, added, is kind of odd. And I do believe that I get people coming back to reading my content, what I put out there, because they know it's me, and I'm not just writing and spinning content or accepting guest articles.
Right. Well, let me back up a minute to what you were saying
Sure.
a little bit ago about the longer content ranking.
Yep.
One of the things about content, there are so many variables with it, and that's one of the reasons. And I'm not going to argue with you about it being better to hire a human than to use
Sure.
auto-generating. And that's one of the reasons why there are so many variables with content. So that page, let's take your example, online bachelor's degrees. How many different online bachelor's degrees are there, and what is the process to get one, and how, there's a lot of information there to be conveyed on a page. So yeah, 10, 20, 30,000 words, I can totally see that. But if you have, let's say you have a baking blog and you're going to write a post about how to bake chocolate cupcakes, and you try to get 20,000 words out of that, that's just, I can't even imagine being able to do that. So one of the instructions that I always give writers who work for me is as many words as it takes. If it takes 500 words, that's fine. If you covered the topic well, whatever the topic is, and you got your point across, and there's not any fluff in there, words just to have words, fine, it's 500 words. If it takes 3,000 words, fine. That's what it takes to cover that topic. So I think a lot of times when we see statements on industry sites and on social media that, longer content ranks better. Well, which content? What kind of content are we talking about?
Sure.
You can't apply that across the board and say, longer content ranks, so I'm going to go into my site here, my cooking blog now, and I'm going to make every single post at least 10,000 words. You're actually going to do damage. You're actually going to shoot yourself in the foot by doing that. It's not going to work for you as well as it would for a school that is, describing the process of getting a degree. So that's something to keep in mind.
Well, the same thing is whether if you have a blog that, okay, I'm going to hire a writer to write a blog for my business, and I want them to write 400 words on every blog post, or 350 words on every blog post. It's not natural to actually say, okay, every blog post is going to be 350 words or close to that. What's natural is a blog like mine, where I write the content, and some posts, like you mentioned, it's appropriate it could be 150, 200 words, if that is enough to say, okay, Google acquired Apple. Well, that's something like that. Sure, you could get in, and if you know the share price and all some of the details, but that's all people really need to know. Versus, like I said, something about online bachelor's degrees that that is more of a more, it could be something much longer. So it is kind of unnatural to have a blog or have a site where every single post is the same exact length.
Yes, and that is something that businesses do sometimes say and expect, and it's a shame. They've been misinformed. I actually had a client once who they had been working with a writer before me. And when I started explaining this to them, they said, well, the first writer told us that every blog post has to have at least 400 words. And I said, no, that's absolutely not. Well, that doesn't make any sense. You're a business, so you have a post about how to invest. Let's say it's an investment business, how to invest for retirement with a small, what is it called, a self-employed IRA. That is an involved post. That is a lot of information, and you're explaining finances to people and helping them to feel secure about their money and their retirement and their future. That's going to take a lot of words. We opened a new branch in Dallas, Texas. No, I don't think you can even get 500 words out of that. We opened a new branch. This is the address. These are the services that we offer. Come by and see us. And these are the hours, come by. Yeah. That's it. That's all you need. The other thing is you don't really need that to rank. You don't need your post about your new location. You have that on your locations page as well. That's something that's going to go out in RSS to your or on your newsletter. That's fine. That's the purpose of it. But the investment piece, yes, that is something that you want to rank. So it is going to be longer, and it's going to have more information and be better researched, and well, not even better researched, just researched. And so that's what I'm saying. Excuse me. Content, it depends on what the content is and what its purpose is. Informing people about a new branch, that's post purpose. Sure. Informing or educating someone. There's a difference between informing and educating. Informing is very straightforward and can be brief. Educating someone, yes, it takes time and it takes length and words. But even then, there's no, okay, it has to be at least 3,000 words. No, it's going to take as many words as it takes. So I think something else that some sites have gotten into is when it became apparent that jump links worked in the SERPs. And or you could have links that correlated to a table of contents. Sure. People started, okay, let's build a really big blog post so we can have a table of contents so that we can get those links. When you start doing that, as soon as that goes away, and how many other things has Google come out with that went away eventually? The rel publisher tag. All kinds of things. The longer meta description, and then we went back to the shorter one. Yeah. They test these things all the time. So when you start adjusting what you're doing specifically for SERPs and specifically for ranking, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because you're eventually either going to have to fix it and clean it up, or it's just not worth that amount of work that you're putting into it and that amount of content. It's not. It's just not a piece that is that lends itself to that link. So it's just and bringing it back to hiring people. That is one of the best things about hiring a person. They can think about that. Excuse me. They can put themselves in the customer's shoes. Yep. And think about all of those different variables and what am I going to be concerned about with my retirement? Being able to live obviously day to day, but maybe I want to travel in my retirement too. So, all of these things, that AI can't do that. And AI doesn't sit and think, what is going to be important to a person in learning about retirement and investing and things like that. So, for writing and editing, it's always best to go with the human who can think and, put themselves in those situations and empathize. And that's what it comes down to, is a machine cannot empathize with your readers. You need a person who can do that.
So the other thing is what kind of related is I do like to look at, start thinking about also, user intent when somebody is, if you've done your keyword research and you have kind of a list of keywords. Actually, I like to personally do a search for a keyword and actually look at the search results. And so the keywords, and even just flipping them around, giving an example is school construction versus construction school. And I have I know of a particular website or a company locally here in the Dallas area who actually builds schools. So schools construction is one of the things they do. They do buildings and so forth. Well, flip it around to construction school, and you have completely somebody, okay, who is actually who wants to be in construction, and they're looking to get their certifications and their requirements. They're looking for a construction school. They want to go take classes. So those small little differences and can make a big difference. So actually going to the search results, taking that keyword, even if it's singular versus plural and so forth, those nuances can make that user intent, and so forth. And we need to understand that, and before we even start writing, because let's put the keyword in, look at the results. What type of search query and what type of content is appropriate.
Right.
There are keywords that are more generic, that in a generic topic for your industry, that for any industry, that don't really indicate that somebody is looking to hire somebody. Or if you provide a service, then let's talk about search engine optimization. Well, people are looking for that type of information, so that's an informational type of query. And the content that you would write for search engine optimization would be general in nature, and the people who look, it would be informational. But
Mm-hmm.
someone who is searching for a SEO service or a search engine optimization service,
Right.
well, that type of content is going to be completely different than what you would write for search engine optimization. So a lot of it is doing that research ahead of time, and not just throwing an article out there, but
Absolutely.
just for the sake of throwing an article out there. And what I found is, and I have tested a lot of different AI type of article generators and this and that, just to really understand. And sure, putting in a keyword. Well, the missing point is, or the missing part is that intent, and that
Mm-hmm.
comes along with length and information and so forth.
Yes, intent and also context.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, like you said, you can have a very broad term that if you just type it into the search engine, you're going to get, 80 different types of result. Whereas if it's, you're looking for something more specific, let's say, for example, that you wanted to you have a pool and you need to know how to take care of the water. So you're interested in the water's chemistry. If you just search
Sure.
for chemistry, you're going to get billions of
Yep.
results of all kinds. There's so many different types of chemistry and so many things that can apply to. Adding just the word pool to it, pool chemistry or pool water chemistry, that's going to narrow those results down quite a bit. So yeah, it's always about context, and it's not just doing keyword research is so much more than just looking at which words are popular. Because yeah, a tool like Ahrefs or something might tell you, oh yeah, chemistry is super high volume keyword, and well, of course it is, because that's such a broad term. But once you start narrowing it down, it, like you said, it makes a big difference. So yeah, there's a lot more. There's relevance and intent, of course, but there's also that context. And again, that's not really something that an AI can always, if ever, um, address.
So as far as say, I know that there's a big demand, because I write a lot for my personal business and so forth, and for my business. But I know that there's always, I always see people posting in different places and mentioning, hey, where can I find a good writer? So if you are a writer, how would you, go about kind of marketing yourself, and figuring out, and putting yourself out there? Um, what are kind of those steps for somebody who was to kind of get, you know, basically get hired to be, a freelance writer?
It would be to get your work published and
Yep.
you could have your own blog, but my recommendation would be to get content published on other sites. That's sort of the
Okay.
unbiased,
Sure.
avenue for publication, whether it's someone else's blog or a site like Medium. Um, the thing to remember, though, and when I work for clients as an editor and I am building a content team, a freelance writer may send me a portfolio or links to their work on other blogs, but I have to keep in mind that those have been edited. So I may not be seeing the person's raw material and what their work actually looks like. So I would tell writers always be ready to do a test post as long as it's paid. Never work for free, so that the publisher can see your talent and before someone else got hold of your words and changed them around or tweak them. Um, and then, obviously, being on social media and establishing authority and knowledge there, sharing good information, and not just retweeting all the time, not just sharing other articles,
Sure.
but talking to people and
Yeah.
giving your opinion and talking about your experience. And there are so many different avenues now to do that. And then just looking for opportunities on sites like LinkedIn, where people are actually seeking writers, looking at those job posts. Having a really good LinkedIn profile is going to be helpful, and having recommendations on there as well. So sometimes marketing yourself as a writer is not always very different from marketing yourself as any other kind of job,
Sure.
an accountant or
Yep.
whatever it is. You need to have experience behind you. You need to have a network. You need to have recommendations and references and a good resume. But like I said, the difference would be in that being prepared to write something. And I have asked that of writers too. Please, here's a topic, write a test post for me. It is paid, so that I can see what you do. And it's also, how do you follow instructions too? And here's the thing with content too, every place is going to be different. Every editor is different. They might
Mhm.
have their own style guide that you have to follow. So you have to be flexible. You have to have that flexibility to be able to fit what they are looking for, not necessarily, well, this is just how I write, take it or leave it. You have to have that
Sure.
flexibility, and kind of combine your own talent with what they need and what they're looking for. So it's marketing is not an easy thing. It's never an easy thing for any career field. And for writers, it's, I think, partly building a really good network. I have writers I've been working with since 2008,
Mhm.
that I work with off and on. I get a new gig with a new client and they need writers, and they're the first ones that I contact because I know them. I've worked with them before. I know how they work and that they're good. They're talented. So, building a network like that you can always stay in and draw from is really important.
Are there any particular industries or any topics that are, I guess, really hot now, if that are in demand? I know that legal writers, for example, people who have some legal experience, that either they are attorneys or they were an attorney, or they have some legal background.
Hmm.
I know that is always in demand. Are there any other industries or topics that you've noticed lately, even in the past few months, that have been in demand?
In general, in addition to the legal writing, medical writing, that's always in demand and can be very
Yep.
lucrative, especially if you have experience and not even necessarily being a doctor or a nurse practitioner
Sure.
or anything like that. If you have experience writing in that vertical and you can do that research, that can be a very lucrative path. In the past few months, Well, with the pandemic and with the, a lot of places still being locked down and in quarantine, people are starting to look for, and this is part of the reason why I brought up the swimming pool a little bit ago. That's actually one of my clients has a site about pools, and
Sure.
searches for pools, specifically above ground pools, have skyrocketed because they can't go to the neighborhood pool anymore. They can't go to the public pool, or and they don't have a built-in an in-ground pool in their backyard. What are they going to do? They've got their kids at home,
Sure.
and it's summer now, and they're bored. So people are looking for above ground pools. So not, and I'm not saying write about pools. That's not what I mean. What
Yeah.
I'm saying is any kinds of verticals that are things like that can be done at home. Um, you know, things that people are going to be looking inward for now because they can't go out. A lot of places still can't go to the movies. They're looking for streaming services, and I would imagine that entertainment sites and sites, affiliate sites that maybe sell board games and things like that. Those are probably doing pretty well right now. And this is all off the top of my head because I have not done any research. Let me put the
Sure.
caveat there. But yeah, just over the past few months, things like that, things that people can do at home. And unfortunately, while the legal profession and the legal vertical for writing is always in demand and can always be very lucrative, it's starting to pick up because of the fact that um, people, you may have seen this in the news, a lot of people were stuck on cruise ships when the
Sure.
pandemic first happened. They couldn't dock, they couldn't get off the ship. They were, people were getting sick, and it was a really awful situation. A lot of those people now are suing the cruise companies, the cruise ship companies. So legal is really picking up in that area again with personal liability and personal not personal liability, personal injury, and those kinds of lawsuits that are happening. So yeah, I would look at how have the events of the past few months changed life for people, and what could that equate to, and that would be a place that I would look for work.
So yeah, so the other thing is part is a lot of people are, I know that are out of work now, and that maybe a good option is, sure, they may have, you know talking directly to them, they, or you have actually spent time um, developing your craft, or whatever, whether it's legal, or whether it is accounting, or whatever it is. And if you have some kind of writing ability, and some of us write very, writing comes easy, and some of us, sure, it's a little bit more difficult. But to pick up work, to pick up, if you are in accounting, for example, there are, there are jobs, even if it's just freelance, per job, or per article,
Yes,
that's a good option right now.
that is an
Is,
excellent
okay,
point.
sit
Yeah,
at home and write about, accounting, and put yourself out there as you're an accounting writer, and you can easily get that work. I probably within 24 hours you could have, have some work going.
yeah,
It may not be something that is, a full, it's not necessarily a full-time job, but at least it would take take the industry experience, whatever industry you're in, and if you can do some content, then that would be, could be very lucrative. At least, very, or at least get you some work pretty
yeah.
quickly.
Absolutely. I would say that that's actually also true for people in the SEO industry themselves.
Sure.
I'm sure you've heard this too, and we've seen it on Twitter a lot. People have been losing clients because of this, because whatever type of client they had to close their business, even temporarily, or the business couldn't spend that money anymore on the SEO practitioners. So people have lost clients and lost work. So where do you turn with that kind of experience to writing? Also, there are still sites out there writing about SEO and excuse me and marketing, and trying to help those businesses through this, and trying to help those other people in the SEO industry through this. And and then Google with the core updates that the two of them that they've put out so far this year that have just been devastating to a lot of sites, depending on their verticals. There's writing work out there for those people as well. Absolutely.
I know you have a course coming up that's going to be launching, and even if people have not necessarily listening to this today, but in the future. So tell me a little bit about the course that you're working on and the course that you have available.
I will. Thank you for asking. It actually launches tomorrow, so I'm pretty excited. Okay. This is the first course I've ever done, and it is my school is called Editorial SEO Academy. And it is aimed at writers and editors, bloggers, and even small business owners, teaching all of the most important facets of content optimization and on-page SEO in order to be able to, like we were talking about, get a job as a content writer or as a digital content editor, which is what I do, or for a blogger to be able to increase their revenue on their blog, and for a business to get more visibility. So I wanted to focus on that because a lot of SEO courses are very broad, and it's kind of what we were talking about with the keywords. They're teaching SEO, and it's like the fire hose, for a lot of people.
Yep, exactly.
And they don't have a lot of time, especially with and like we were talking about, people looking for work that they can do now and work that they can do from home. They can write, and if they can just get these basics down, just you don't need to know about redirects and URL structure and all of this. If you can just learn how to write optimized content or edit optimized content so that it performs, you can work from home and you can find this work and make some money. So that's what my course is going to do. And like I said, I'm really excited about it. So I hope that people find it helpful. It's on my website. My website is michellelowery.com, and the courses are located at courses.michellelowery.com. So hopefully people will find that helpful.
Yeah. So otherwise, how can we get in touch with you?
Mostly on Twitter.
Twitter. Okay.
Yeah. Michelle D. Lowery is my handle. I'm on Facebook. I do have a Facebook business page that I don't update as often as I should. That will change soon. I'm trying to be better about that and get my marketing in gear. Once building this course has taken up a lot of my time. So I put a lot of other things on to the side. But I'm on Twitter mostly. I'm still kind of quiet there. I'm not, the most prolific tweeter, but if anybody wants to connect or has questions or anything, feel free to reach out. That'd be great.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks again for joining me this afternoon. This is the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast for May 14th, 2020. Thanks again, Michelle. And we'll catch you online. Thanks.
Yes, thanks.